Welcome and thank you once again for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Evidently, you're unaware. I am your host, Andrea, and I'm so glad that you're here because I know that when you're here and you know when I'm here, it is time to get more information on something that has impact on your life. And it is this episode that we can finally talk about the blue wave. And by now, there are many that have heard about the blue wave. By now, many have seen the results of the blue wave. But the blue wave finally occurred, at least in some real, almost very visible, and in most cases, tangible way. So November 4th, 2025, where were you? Well, hundreds of thousands of people across the country were voting. Hundreds of thousands had already cast their vote by mail or during early voting periods. Even voters in Kentucky showed up to vote, and there was no one on the ballot for their state. But hey, why not? Why not? Because the wave was hinted to occur. And I believe most statisticians and people across this world also agree. The election results of November 2025 were nothing shy of exceeding expectations, particularly for Democrats. More than $40 million was spent by Wall Street CEOs and other New York City billionaires to oppose the Zohran Mamdani mayoral campaign. The New York City mayoral race, along with the gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey, were among the most watched races. That's what you see on the screen. The Spamberger race and the Mikey Sherrill race, as well as the Mamdani race, which is to this day still being talked about. But then we have in Spamberger's case, another elected race where Jay Jones in her state became the attorney general, and Ghazala Hashmi also became the lieutenant governor. So just a little bit of knowledge for you. Virginia is one of those states where the voters get to vote for their lieutenant governor and their governor. So there is a chance at times where there could be a split party governor, lieutenant governor holding the gavel. So that being the case, in this case, Democrats swept that state very well. But I want to bring your attention to a few other races. I know that there were many others across this country where candidates are now in position to help solve real world issues facing everyday Americans. So let's talk about a few of them. Did you know that the Democrats flipped the Georgia Public Service Commission? The Georgia Public Service Commission. This is that commission that has the power to determine the electric rates in the state. That is huge. That is absolutely huge. And so now you've got these two Democrats on this commission and ultimately having the opportunity to have impact on one of the most affordability crisis areas in the whole country. And in this case, they get a chance in Georgia to have a say in that particular outcome. And did you know that in Pennsylvania, the Democrats now maintain the Democratic majority of 5-2 in the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court? That is huge because that's another 10-year span of coverage with democratically held seats. Candidates who hopefully will continue to see this world for what it is and govern on behalf of what's best for the people, obviously in this case, in Pennsylvania. Also, did you know that the first woman in history, Mary Sheffield, became the mayor of Detroit, Michigan? First woman in history to become the mayor of Detroit, Michigan. Why does all of this matter? It matters because the people have spoken. This past election seems to be, it's shaping up to be the first kind of real visual, I guess I should say, the real feeling of response to what many have now coined, I didn't vote for that. So here we are getting women in place. People are holding to democratic norms by reelecting state Supreme Court justices. And ultimately, this should be good for the nation as well as we follow what's happening in future elections. So let me say this, let's keep going. Did you know in Cleveland, Ohio, the second youngest has been re-elected? Justin Bibbs, re-elected to the mayoral seat in Cleveland, Ohio. Also, did you know, this is kind of an unknown, but yet a good known, and that is this gentleman. I paused because I look at what is happening, and sometimes we overlook those races that ultimately have just as much impact as the ones that were most watched, which I showed at the top of this episode. But Aftab Purval, let me make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Aftab Purval is how you say that. He defeated J.D. Vance's relative in the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, to become reelected as mayor. So J.D. Vance's relative, I won't even go into kind of how they're related, but just know if it's in the family, you know what that could possibly mean. He ran against the incumbent, Aftab Purval, and Aftab came out as a winner, reelected as the mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio. Then we now have, again, another historical moment. First Black in history, Sharon Owens became the mayor of Syracuse, New York. First Black in history, mayor of Syracuse, New York. And then we have first Black in history, Miss Dorsey Alplers. I hope I'm saying that right. Miss Dorsey Alplers, mayor of Albany, New York. And so a lot has happened over the course of this past election. And I want you to know that ultimately, when these things are done, it's not anything that we should not have expected, because if we're hearing right, the people are claiming they didn't vote. And we all know that were 77 million of them. I'm not even going to go through the whole number. Millions of people did not vote for one of the most qualified ever candidates for the esteemed and highest position of President of the United States. Instead, the 34-count convicted felon received those votes, and by absentia, 89 million who did not bother to vote at all. But let me tag in on Florida. Florida Democrats won big. And I want to say this about Florida. Ultimately, this is one of those states that has had hints of blue, purple. Ultimately, it's just one of those things that we saw swing Obama's way and then it swung back. But bit by bit, Florida's kind of stayed in the game. And so compliments of the Florida Democratic Party, give them their credit where it's due for their coverage, and obviously sending out the appropriate news worthy pictures of those candidates. Here is Chris Jadwowski advancing to the runoff for Fort Pierce City Commission, District 2, Seat 2. Here is Brian Bain. He won the Seat 2 on the Claremont City Council. There is Sean Rose, Orlando City Commission, District 5. Then there's Tom Keene, and for those who are local to, I think, the Pinellas County area for sure, now he's in Orlando City Commission, District 1. Tom Keene was victorious in November. Then we have Laura Dominguez, Miami Beach City Commission, Group number 2, winner there in Miami. There also is Alex Fernandez, Miami Beach City Commission, Group number 3. Then we also have Christine King, Miami City Commission. And possibly for the first time ever, I'm hearing, I believe that's accurate, Eileen Higgins, if should she win, will become the first female mayor of the city of Miami. She's up against DeSantis-backed candidate Emilio Gonzalez. They are headed to a runoff. They will be on the ballot once again December 9th. So to all my viewers, they're in the Miami area, city of Miami. You've got another election, special election coming up as a runoff, as well as a huge, historical making moment with Eileen Higgins. And so I'm so excited ultimately for all that has happened. It is one of those things that you kind of see every now and again. You expect it. And certainly for those who are witnessing, we're living through what is happening with the current administration. Ultimately, this is a good sign that there are people that genuinely and truly do want accountability, and they want their lives to just simply be better than it has been. So what I'm going to do real now is share my screen. One of the things that people like myself, I'm a numbers girl by habit, by nature. My background is that. So I love statistics and I enjoy seeing what comes through. And so I want to share this exit poll. And exit polls are those things that, all the statisticians start to look for. What happened? It's not just that somebody won. We want to know how they won, what they did, how they did it, obviously make it a blueprint for future elections. And so I thought I would pull up a few of these here on the screen. And that is what you're seeing here for the governor's race, Mamdani, and how he pulled this off. And one of the things that is critical here, and what I want to highlight here, is votes under 30. That's voters under 30. Let me say that properly. Voters under 30. That is a huge swing of the bat, hitting the ball out of the park in that category. 78% of voters under 30 went for Mamdani. 77% liberal, 59% renters, and 57% college grads. Those are huge statistics. I mean, anytime you get more than half, clearly is already a huge accomplishment. But bigger than that is the opportunity to tag into and tap into a market that either A, wasn't there for Democrats, or either eroded over time. And Mamdani found a way, platform, messaging, being out there with the people. We all witnessed some of the things from afar that he was doing. Like him or not, he ran a campaign that attracted people who I'm certain did not vote maybe in the last few elections. Like, that's an exit poll I'm going to be looking for as well. And so I can imagine that people are studying the blueprint from him. Let me move on. Mikey Sherrill, ultimately and statistically, she, in the women's category, won 62% over Jack Chitterelli. Sherrill, 62% of women. She also, for Latino voters, and this is huge, Latino voters went for Sherrill 64% to 32%. That is yet another area that fell flat in the presidential race for Kamala Harris, between Kamala and the 34 count convicted felon. Latinas swung for the felon. I'm just going to call that like it is. It is what it is. Latinas swung to the fence for the felon. And Mikey Sherrill in the state of New Jersey captured that vote back. And that's good, because that's a good sign. Maybe people are tired of what they voted for, and they are willing now to put their vote to candidates who are people-focused and democratically sound. And one other area I just want to highlight for those in the state of Virginia, independents. And that's another category for the statisticians out there. Independents is that right in the middle of the road. They are a group of voters that oftentimes may be overlooked, maybe not placed as focused in a focus area as much, Spamberger in Virginia did that, and she won, of independent voters, she won 56% of their vote compared to Earl Sears, 41%. So I just want to simply share that there are trends happening in this democratic process, and it appears that something is shifting, and it's just a matter of how that transcends into future elections. So I wanted to take the time today to simply go back and remind people that voting is your superpower. It truly is. And we can no longer just put someone in office because of a party affiliation. And I'm going to say that again. It's just not good enough to stay loyal when that loyalty is not reciprocated to you. There are people suffering today in vast populations because of something that was said that really was not true. And unfortunately, people have had to hear and now experience it the hard way. So let me just say this. One thing is clear. The November 4th, 2025 election results favored Democrats. There's no disputing that. It favored Democrats. The pendulum swung, and voters have seemingly used their superpower. It's the power of a vote. That's what your superpower is, the power of a vote, to express dissent against the injustices occurring throughout this country to every individual who is not a millionaire, billionaire, white, or male. At the end of the day, we don't know, again, we got this redistricting thing going on. We don't know what this will do and who this battle will favor the most. But we also don't know if the blue wave will continue to swell. And I will say this, I am encouraging people to make sure you're casting vote for candidates who are people focused. I think there's history that shares with us that the Democrats are always the rescue team. And there's, I think, going to be no different heading into the 2026 midterms. Democratically sound candidates will have to rescue this country. And I just firmly believe that they're not going to blanket it over who's in a red state or a blue state. They're going to rescue the country no matter which state you happen to reside in. The Democratic Party, do your research on all candidates. Every time there's a Republican-led administration, or at least most of the time, let me just say, historically is more so true than not. And Democratic-led administration follows a Republican-led administration, things have to get cleaned up. And that's just the way it is. Not saying people in a different party are wrong. It's just fact is fact, and we're not going to argue the facts. I have a favorite hashtag. I don't debate facts. And so here's what I do know. The country must carry that same blue wave energy into the 2026 midterms. This election must center around candidates who are dedicated to shining light. Focused. They must be sure that ultimately there are things in place, people in place to turn this around. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Andrea. I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do to share the word, share this content. If you are here for the first time, be sure to listen and subscribe and share what is going on, because we no longer have the luxury of not knowing or not being aware. We must be sure that we understand who has our best interests at heart and do our best to get those people in the positions to govern and govern effectively and efficiently. So until next time, going to my inbox. If you've got comments, inbox me, Andrea@strategicblueprint.info. Don't forget, subscribe to my channel, Evidently You're Unaware, and that's on YouTube. And follow me on Blue Sky at thesuccessfuldiva.bsky.social. Take care.